Welcome back. The Ministry of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, with its stakeholders, will be hosting the Strategic Education Sector Engagement Meeting that started yesterday, the 26th of July, and is set to end tomorrow on the 28th of July. To share more on the event is Dr. Raymond Nanda, the Deputy Executive Director in the Ministry of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation. So good evening and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, listeners. Good evening, viewers.
To start with, perhaps you can talk to us about the objectives of this tertiary education sector strategic engagement meeting.
Yeah, I think the objective of this exercise is to really unpack the challenges the higher education sector is facing. There are quite a number of challenges that the sector is facing. If one can look at them, one can start with the COVID-19 impact, which really affected the education and training sector. We are looking at new emerging technologies, which are also affecting the sector. And also we are looking at the impact of the recently introduced basic education reform curriculum that was introduced in during 2021. So what we are trying to do is basically to look at all these aspects and to really see how best as a sector we can address some of the issues that are affecting the higher education sector.
Kindly give us a brief rundown of yesterday and today's engagement meeting points.
Okay, the meeting started off yesterday, where we had our executive director and the honorable minister setting the scene for the meeting, where they highlighted some of the challenges the sector is experiencing and what expectations the ministry is expecting from this meeting. Following the official opening session, what we then did, we had a session that was dedicated to looking at the impact of the introduction of the basic education reform curriculum. Basically what transpired from there is we received an overview of what the ministry intended to do, the Ministry of Basic Education and Culture with the reform. Of course, what came out was that the government intended to really bring our education system at a very, very high level standard, which benchmark with international standards. Of course, what also came out during the session was that there are mixed groups, because what we have is we have two exit levels, that is at grade 11 and grade 12, and all these learners are expected to sit in one classroom. So this was one of the challenges that we've experienced. From there, in the afternoon, we looked at the new economic the new emerging economies, looking at green hydrogen, oil and gas discoveries. Of course, these new economic discoveries are posing serious challenges on the economy, not on the economy, but on the education and training sector, in terms of new skills that would be required to be provided by the education and training sector. So we needed to look at and understand what are those kind of skills would be. The artificial intelligence, as well as the fourth industrial revolution, is also amongst us. Of course, what we needed to do was to assess the readiness of the sector in response to the fourth industrial revolution and the emergence of artificial intelligence in the country. That was what we discussed yesterday. Today we looked at the issue of the national qualification framework and how it impacts on the broader and wider education and training system. And the other aspect that we also looked at today was the issue of research and development in the country. So what transpired during the day was that, yes, there are a number of challenges in terms of the implementation of the NQF framework, because there is no proper articulation between the TVET system as well as the higher education system vis-a-vis basic education, because we must be mindful that the Ministry of Basic Education and Arts and Culture has introduced pre-voc subjects, and these learners from basic education are required to transition to formal TVET. And also what we expect is from the formal TVET trainees to transit seamlessly to higher education system. So what we needed to do was really to understand what needs to be done in order to have these issues addressed.
Yeah. And
then the issue of research and development was found to be a very, very critical enabler for economic development of the country, and what came out is that research and development is very, very key. However, there is not sufficient investment towards research and development of the country. And there is an appeal that was made for sufficient investment to be made to really promote research and development in the country, as well as promote innovation in the country.
Let me just also interject at that juncture before we run out of time. You mentioned also that you touched on the issue of TVET, and it's a sing-song, and that's been praised for a while now. And I want to know if there been any discussions, or will there be any discussions around vocational training on school level, number one, and also from your perspective, how does the future of TVET look?
Yes, TVET actually featured prominently during the last 2 days, because TVET is considered as one of the enablers for a country's economic competitiveness. And therefore, when we discuss the issue of emerging technologies, for example, green hydrogen and gas and oil discoveries, it came out that TVET should play a very, very critical role in response of those skills that would be required by those sectors. So going forward, I must say that the TVET future in the country is quite very prominent, because our political leaders have attached a high premium towards vocational training, and therefore the investment towards TVET is growing. We are seeing that growing over the coming years, so that it can respond to the new emerging technologies. Yes, the Ministry of Basic Education and Arts and Culture have reintroduced pre-voc subjects, and that is basically where we are seeing the importance of TVET, where we need to encourage youngsters at an early age to really consider TVET not as an educational stream for educational failures, but it should be equally considered as an important educational stream that would really promote the economic development of this country.
Dr. Nanda, that's all the time we have, but thank you so much for joining us this evening, and all the best for the deliberations that are set to take place tomorrow still.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to take a brief break. When we come back, it's time for health. Stay with us.